My name is Kayla Passaretti, and I'm going to be reading James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl. This book is grade appropriate for 3rd through 6th grade. Third through 5th is actually mentioned on Scholastic.com, but 4th through 6th is mentioned on Dogbooks.com, and I actually read this book in 6th grade, so I believe that it can go all the way up to that grade level, and even start as low as that grade level. Let's get started reading. So before we start reading, just by looking at this cover, what do you think this book could be about? So looking at everything that's here, what could possibly be inside this book? I'm going to read the first chapter. So here is James Henry Trotter when he was just 4 years old. Up until this time, he had a happy life, living peacefully with his mother and father in a beautiful house beside the sea. There were always plenty of other children for him to play with, and there was a sandy beach for him to run about, and the ocean to paddle in. It was a perfect life for a small boy. Then one day, James's mother and father went to London to do some shopping, and therein a terrible thing happened. Both of them suddenly got eaten up, in full daylight, mind you, on a crowded street, by an enormous angry rhinoceros which had escaped from the London Zoo. Now, this, as you can well imagine, was a rather nasty experience for two such gentle parents, but in the long run, it was far nastier for James than it was for them. Their troubles were all over in a jiffy. They were dead and gone within 35 seconds flat. And on the other hand, poor James was still very much alive, and all at once he found himself alone and frightened and in a vast, unfriendly world. The lovely house by the seaside had to be sold immediately, and the little boy, carrying nothing but a small suitcase containing a pair of pajamas and a toothbrush, was sent away to live with his two aunts. Their names were Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker, and I am sorry to say that they were both really horrible people. They were selfish and lazy and cruel, and right from the beginning they started beating poor James for almost no reason at all. They never called him by his real name, but always referred to him as "you disgusting little beast," or "you filthy nuisance," or "you miserable creature." And they certainly never gave him any toys to play with, or any picture books to look at. His room was bare as a prison cell. They lived, Aunt Sponge, Aunt Spiker, and now James as well, in a queer ramshackle house on the top of the hill in the south of England. The hill was so high that from almost anywhere in the garden, James could look down and see miles and miles across a marvelous landscape of woods and fields, and on a very clear day, if he looked in the right direction, he could see a tiny gray dot far on the way on the horizon, which was the house that he used to live in with his beloved mother and father. So far, after what we just read, how would you feel if this was you and all of this had just happened? How would that make you feel? But now, James was never allowed to go down off the top of that hill. Neither Aunt Sponge nor Aunt Spiker could ever be bothered to take them out herself, not even for a small walk or a picnic, and he certainly wasn't permitted to go alone. The nasty little beast will only get into mischief if he goes out of the garden, Aunt Spiker had said, and terrible punishments were promised him, such as being locked up in the cellar with rats for a week, if he was so much even as dare to climb over the fence. The garden, which covered the whole top of the hill, was large and desolate, and the only tree in the entire place, apart from a clump of dirty old laurel bushes at the far end, was an ancient peach tree that never gave any peaches. There was no swing, no seesaw, no sandpit, and no other children were ever invited to come up the hill to play with poor James. There wasn't so much as a dog or a cat around to keep him company, and as time went on, he became sadder and more lonely, and he used to spend hours every day standing at the bottom of the garden, gazing wistfully at the lovely but forbidden world of woods and fields and ocean that spread out below like a magic carpet. So, after reading the first chapter, what do you think might happen next? So we looked at the cover, and we know that there's a peach involved, and we see all these other insects that are here. Could they also be a part of the story? What might happen with this peach? I chose James and the Giant Peach because this book is full of a lot of figurative language, and it has such great content inside of it. It also talks about child abuse and death, which can sometimes be very connected with students, especially if they're experiencing that themselves. But it also explains how James went on to make new friends and helping people, and then he even turned out to be a very young fine man. Thank you.